Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear God, thank you so much for your hand of grace. We ask for your continued protection over our schools, our service, our police, our fire, and our administration. In your name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Schultz. Ms. Raleigh, roll call, please.
Ms. Simons?
Here.
Mr. Ziegler?
Here.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Here.
Ms. Grazia?
Here.
Mr. Hamer?
Here.
Mr. Schultz?
Here.
Mr. Smolik?
Here. Okay, on to the public hearing continuation, tabled from 4/15/2024. Application for zoning map amendment at 9501 Chillicothe Road. Mr. Lallo, I believe we had closed out public comments at the time,
I
and
was just confirming that in our minutes, yeah, that we closed the
Okay.
public comment. And at that time, it was suggested if there were any other members of public that had questions or needed something to go through council, and then council could then query the applicant at that point.
okay, we received a lot of emails, or a few emails, I believe, especially Councilman Simons. And who else? A few others did too. Then we had some as a whole to us. We read through those. But this goes on to presentation then from, or not the public, I believe we were,
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. The public comment section was
over.
closed at the last meeting. So, so as we,
but we're going to open the floor again to
to
Mr.
Mr. Pizorn.
Pisorno.
And you can ask questions,
And we
and
can ask
council
questions from
can
there.
engage in dialogue with the applicant.
Correct. Okay, Mr. Pisorno?
Hi, folks.
Evening. Okay, did you have more of a presentation, or are we strictly just asking questions? I'll open the floor to yourself.
I can reiterate some of the presentation I gave. I kind of wrote a summary here. With me, I have Mr. Dusty from Polaris and Ms. Bennett, who her firms performed the traffic study. So both of those folks are here, I guess, to assist me and maybe to answer some of your more technical questions. Is that fair if I run through a kind of
Go right ahead.
just a quick, a lot of it's going to be a recap, but I want to thank each of you for your service to the city and the community. Kirtland's been a blessing to my family since my dad bought this property in 1995 because of your work and the work of people like you. We bought the property in 95 and moved here. Had cousins move here after that, had another round of cousins move here after that. So there's several relatives in Kirtland. Sister lives in Kirtland, parents live in Kirtland. I think that story is probably not unique to us. I'm sure people in this room can all share that you have family that live in Kirtland as well, or a lot of you probably do. Again, we're here for in our request for the rezone of the property from an R2A to an R1 zone. For reference of what an R1 zone layout would look like, the neighborhood directly adjacent to the north currently has some of those same square footages. In fact, some of those lots are a bit smaller, but that kind of gives a reference of what an R1 zone would look like. I assume you all know where the property is on Chillicothe Road. We kind of went through that last time. I think we have an awesome opportunity to add to the growth and development of the city with a quality neighborhood that captures the character and beauty of our city while fulfilling several impactful objectives of the city. This request would help restore our family's property with aging buildings. We currently have several buildings on the property, some they're all rental units. Some are vacant, some are occupied. Those units would be replaced by a thriving neighborhood, a flourishing community designed with those in mind who desire a walkable, quality, worry-free neighborhood full of beauty. Partnerships, we've gone at this project somewhat establishing partnerships from the beginning. I think some of the first things I did was reached out to folks sitting to the right, to my right. We talked to the county. We tried to build a little bit of a kind of a coalition just to get feedback from the city, just to know what the city was after. That partnership, those partnerships, we see as essential in continuing this project, if we do get to continue it, in capturing the character of Kirtland. So we'd need feedback from yourselves, like I said, the zoning commission, the folks sitting to the right here, to really capture what that character looks like. I mentioned, and I think it's clear, it's good to reiterate, 50% of the property to the east would remain naturally wooded land as it currently stands, as it's been since we purchased the property, ensuring that a big portion of the property stays natural, and I think that falls in line well with Kirtland's outlook on some of its natural beauty. I think and I expect a lot of questions will be geared towards some of the details, which I think we can work out. Hopefully I can answer some of the questions on the details. We do, part of this project, we do propose investing pretty heavily in the public infrastructure. I think that's worth bringing up because we would privately fund a pretty substantial extension to the sewer system, which has been a continued goal of the city. I think the mayor spoke of it recently, and I think everyone's aware of the goal of extending the sewer south. This would privately fund a good chunk of that. A good chunk being 1,600 feet or so. Other details like storm and traffic, stormwater and traffic, I think we can get to. I just wanted to close real quick. In last month's hearing, someone from the public mentioned the importance of capturing the character and the essence of Kirtland. This individual mentioned that challenges like stormwater and traffic have solutions, and I think they can be overcome. And the important thing is that the city's character be captured. With your help, I think this project will be successful in capturing that Kirtland character. I just wanted to say thank you for myself, for my family, the Pishorns. Thank you for the opportunity to make my dad's dream from a long while ago a reality for this property and for the city of Kirtland. Thank you.
One of the things that I've lived here my whole life, one of the captures of Kirtland was the idea of it being spread out, not having a lot of being small. Adding a bunch of houses on top of each other seems to be a concern to a lot of residents, in that it goes against the current way that Kirtland is. Can you try and convince or just let your it would be the residents that are impacted are pretty much in this room. Can you let us as on council also know how, by adding 30 some houses in a small area, how that's going to capture Kirtland, the characterization of what Kirtland is? Your dad probably moved here to get land and to have privacy. So by condensing it into this small area and houses on top of each other, what I see the concerns from the residents is it's turning it into a Mentor or a Willoughby, where there's a lot of house. And I see that's being the consistent concern. Emails to me about, as you mentioned, increases in traffic, increases in water runoff. And I know that's a thing. I just, how can you characterize Kirtland by adding 30 houses in a small area? It's kind of where I'm trying to figure it out.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I've heard some of those concerns. I'm sure you guys have received stuff in the last month that I'm unaware of, but what we talked about in the last meeting and with the zoning folks. So I would say, Mr. Ziegler, maybe a twofold answer. On one side, that's what a lot of Kirtland is, right? That's what a lot of new developing Kirtland is, right? Alpin Rose, Barrister's Court, Pinehurst, a lot of the streets directly in this area. But it's not what all of Kirtland is. And I would point that out, just that the adjacent neighborhood to the north is not that way. The property currently has 10 residents on it, so it is not that way. There's now this was well before zoning. These zoning regulations were put in place, but there's multi-unit structures on the property currently, which doesn't fit into what we just said. The developing Kirtland would be. But I also think that there's a population of Kirtland that is maybe struggling to maintain residents in Kirtland, and I'm talking specifically of the aging population, and that's something we've talked about a lot. That was one of the initial conversations that we had, myself and the mayor and the folks that were in that meeting, because I believe it's part of the, I'm not sure exactly what the document's called, but the city plan talks about Kirtland having maybe a weakness for retaining the elderly or the aging, let's call it an aging community. We didn't want to, so due to, this is not an officially 55 and over. No, this is not a state created 55 and over. And there's no way for us, without creating a state sanctioned 55 and over, HUD regulated, there's no way for us to do that, right? That there would be some legal issues there.
Could have now without the change?
There was a plan probably 12 years ago that was reviewed. Not with me, no.
How many houses were on the original plan?
Yeah, I want to say it's say a dozen plus or minus a few, 10 to 12. Single family. Those would be single family homes. Yeah.
Kirtland does, believe it or not, have a high percentage of seniors in our community, even though I know you had mentioned that we want that, Tom? That people are leaving Kirtland that are aging, but believe it or not, I think we're one of the highest in the state as far as the aging population.
Yeah, no, I don't mean that they're leaving. I'm sorry if I misspoke. I agree with that. And
the downsize is what you're kind of getting.
when I shared that statistic, and we kind of talked about it last meeting a little bit, but yeah, so providing a place for those folks to go,
Okay.
is something that, again, and I hate to keep going back to this, but something that we discussed early on was creating a neighborhood where folks can go.
Did you get
Without a HUD, without a state or federal grant or regulatory process to make it 55 and over.
Did you get any additional information about the home values or anything from the builders that when you'd emailed, I asked if you had any additional info there?
Yeah, so you asked about three things. I think traffic was one, which we have feedback
Yeah,
on
it's
traffic,
like
and we can speak to that, a pretty in-depth traffic study. The zoning team asked for that as well. And I think Mr. Schultz, you brought it up that the zoning team asked for it, and it's now done. Stormwater you asked about, and we can talk a little bit about the details of that. The home values and home sizes, I feel like it's preliminary in the process to have all of that locked down. And I to Mr. Lallo, I guess this still would go through an entire subdivision approval process.
Sure.
So I know that was a piece of information that,
The reason I'm asking that question is if the true goal is to target those people that want to downsize. Depending on the value of the current land that they have, by the time they downsize, if the new home they're moving into, because it's a brand new home, if they're not saving anything as far as that goes, it just, like, the logic doesn't track for them. And so that's why I was trying to get at that. I wasn't trying to, I realize it's early. I'm just trying to understand how we get from point A to point B
Yeah.
in that scenario.
Felt the same way, Julie.
What's an average new
To
build?
build,
Sue?
to buy a, well, that's what I was just saying to Scott, to buy the property and then, and I know what you're trying to do, Andrew, I understand, but this, I believe would not be an area for elderly people. This, I mean, by the time you buy the property and construct a house here at, I'm guessing $400,000 or $500,000 at least.
Sure.
So for elderly people in Kirtland that have been here a long time, would they sell their property to build a new home and be at $500,000? I mean, maybe I'm talking,
Well,
here, but
well, and all I would say to that is that the other benefits of the other aspects of low maintenance or worry free that we're trying to capture would hopefully offset some of that. So if someone was looking to sell, move into this and have $500,000, equity out of their existing home, that might not be the case. But if they're looking to get to a place where they don't have 2 acres to mow anymore, they don't have 5 bedrooms to heat, or 6 bedrooms to heat, that might be, or would be more appealing, right? They won't have septics to worry about. They won't have potentially mowing. They won't, a lot of things like that, as well as the walkability of it. I don't think that's a small feature, the fact that a neighborhood could walk around and potentially walk all the way to downtown. That was something that was brought up at the last zoning meeting. But so, yeah, I don't know if that answers that question, but I hope it gives some light to that. The idea would not be to go from a $600,000 house to a $250,000 house. That wouldn't, this neighborhood would not serve that at all.
So last meeting, there was concern of property values with the amount of homes you're coming in. There's a couple things I'm struggling with. The first thing I'm struggling with is you said it's too preliminary to give us the home values estimate or sizes, but you're stating that you guys are going to fund sewers to help connect. That's a pretty healthy penny, right? So you have to have some type of idea and I'm not asking for those numbers. You have to have some type of idea what this is going to cost you to develop and what you think you're going to gain out of this, or you want to be standing in front of council, right? So that means you had to have some idea what the values of those properties are.
Yeah.
To get to your numbers, to sit up here and say that, well, we're going to tie in sewers, right? So we're just trying to understand, but yet you said it's too preliminary. You can't give us those values. You can't give us those sizes. The other thing I am struggling with is there's been a ton of community feedback of the safety side of things and the traffic. So you said you had a traffic study completed. Do we have those results from the traffic study that you can share with council today?
Yeah. Yes.
I'd love, can we kind of just look at, unless you guys have more questions on the actual property and the layout, I'd be interested to hear what the traffic study shows, just so we have that piece. You guys good with that?
Yeah.
If you like to recite them or go through them, you have.
I would just like to hear, if you
Yeah,
had an
absolutely.
outside firm do it, I'd like to hear from them on the traffic study that was performed. So that the residents that are here.
Is this
the
allowed,
residents
Matt?
are-
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you can, ma'am, just when you go to the podium, state your name, business, and business address, please.
It's okay, it happens to me all the time too. It's okay.
Stand on Andrew's shoulders.
Hi, my name is Judy Bennett, and I'm a professional engineer licensed in the state of Ohio, professional traffic operations engineer, and I work for GPD Group out of their Garfield Heights office. And we did the traffic study for Andrew for this with guidance from Doug on exactly what intersections he wanted us to include for some of the adjacent streets to determine what kind of impact this proposed development would have. So we looked at, we did traffic counts at Pinehurst Drive, Barrister's Court, Charles Dairy Road and Russellhurst Drive, as well as at the existing driveway to the property. Because since they are intending to not add extra houses, we wanted to see, and it's not just a single family home that's back there now, there's multiple residences. So we wanted to make sure of what's coming in and out of that driveway currently, and then what it would be with the proposed development. So we did that. We ran all the analysis, which gives you, I don't know, it's called level of service, which is basically a grade, kind of like you get in school, A through F. Except in the world of traffic, anything a D or better is considered good, where, you know, we don't want our kids to get Ds. But as far as traffic goes, if you're in a metropolitan area, D or better is considered good. So at the existing driveway, there's currently, and we do with the peak hour, the morning rush hour and the evening rush hour is what we looked at. There's currently basically 2 cars that turn out of there in the morning, 5 cars that turn out of there in the afternoon, based on the counts that we did. And then the proposed would end up with 9 cars in the morning and 6 cars in the afternoon. We're not talking that this is going to add 5,000 more cars to Chillicothe Road. You're talking literally
When was the study done?
within the last month.
Does it take into account Amazon trucks? I mean, there's like
We-
6 an hour. I mean, 6 an hour in my, they're all going to my.
We counted all traffic. We counted for a couple of hours in the morning to make sure that we captured the morning rush hour, and then a couple of hours in the afternoon to make sure.
How do you feel that the bridge being closed has impacted your study?
I don't know. I mean, we looked at where most of the traffic from the other roads, where they're going to and from, most of it seems to be coming, I think it was 60 or 70% is going towards the freeway. That's how we distributed the same traffic for our proposed traffic.
So can you repeat those numbers again, please?
The existing,
The new one.
the new one would have 9 cars coming out of that. Oh, wait, sorry. That was at one of the driveways. Total is 17 in the morning and 12 in the afternoon.
If you consider it's 30-ish homes, right? And if you
Yes.
consider double occupancy, and if those people are 55 and older, they might still be working and commuting. Like, how did those numbers line up with 2 cars per household, 30 houses? Like, I mean, that's rough, right? Like, I realize not everyone's going to be double, but
We use, the Institute of Transportation Engineers has trip generation, they call it. And you can put in there if you've got single family homes, if you've got a fast food restaurant, if you have a Walmart, if you've got a elementary school or a college or a community college, whatever type of land use you can imagine. You put it in there, you send, for homes, it goes based on the number of homes that are going to be there. And they've, from hundreds of studies that have been done across the United States over the last 50 years, and they update it every couple of years. The one that we're working,
definitely smarter than I am at this. I'm just asking how
and and they just look at various places, how many trips does a single family home generate? And believe it or not, and I know Andrew was shocked when I originally told him that it's roughly 10 a day trips that every single family home generates. And he was like, who has 10 trips a day? And I said, well, when you leave for work and come home from work, that's 2. If your spouse leaves from work and comes home from work, that's 4. You run out and buy dinner and come back, that's 6. The Amazon truck comes and goes, that's 8. You take the kid to soccer practice and come back, that's your 10. It's very easy to get 10 trips a day. They don't all happen during the peak hour. They happen spread out. Some people, I leave for work at 6:30 in the morning. My neighbor leaves at 9. My significant other,
What are you calling peak hours?
this one turned out to be, let me look at what the exact hour was that we found. It's basically when the highest amount of traffic was on Chillicothe on the day that we counted, which was, sorry, I'm looking for it. we counted from 7 to 9 in the morning and 4 to 6 in the evening. The morning peak hour was from 7 to 8, and the evening peak hour is 4:45 to 5:45. Which 7 to 8 seemed early-ish, but we also looked at, we know the schools are right up the road and stuff like that, and that can influence. So when your peak hours happen, but that's what we looked at. We counted from 7 to 9 and 4 to 6, and then found the highest hour within each of those.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions
Anything
pertaining to
else
traffic
about
studies?
traffic?
So if this were to go in, do you think there'd ever be a need for a street light?
No, it would be not even close to meeting the warrants that would be for a street light. Roughly, general rule of thumb, to need a traffic light is on your side street, you have to have about 100 cars an hour for 8 hours of the day. None of the side streets along there that we counted come anywhere close to that.
Thank you.
Councilman Fenstermaker, I want to make one other thing clear, and that is, because your question was kind of two-parted. So we plan on partnering with some builders, local builders. I've talked about that to try to help that concept of capturing some of our objectives. But with that, I want you to know that our plan, and if this wasn't clear, but we would sell lots to those builders. So we would have deed restrictions in place. We would have control of that, but sell lots. So your question of how we've evaluated that has been largely on lot values, and then coupling that with home values that match those lot values. So I hope that answers that question a little bit.
It does. Thank you.
For those lots, what's the tentative plan if this was to go through? How long would it take you to get rid of all 30 lots? Or what's your plan for developing this lengthwise?
Yeah. So the plan, so there'd be no phasing. It's not, doesn't justify phasing. So the plan would be kind of one shot as far as the infrastructure and the road. And then it would really boil down to who we partnered with as far as builders. I don't think there's a local builder that would want to handle all of these homes. I've said all this before. So I don't think it's anything groundbreaking, but so really 3 years.
Have you costed have you gotten estimates on what it would cost to run the sewer down 306 to there? That would be an expensive project.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, it would be. And so that's part of, yes, it would be expensive. Yes, we have some values.
You brought up earlier that would be completely privately funded, or made a comment earlier about for the sewer project getting funded down there, you would be responsible for bringing the sewers down 306, your project on that?
Yes.
Okay. I guess my big question is to, I guess, probably Mr. Lallo. You do this where you go from a 1 acre, go from an R2 to a R1, 1 acre to quarter acres. What's to keep the 29 acres that's just south of you from getting bought out, and I'm asking to do the same thing? What kind of precedent does that set? If somebody buys that property and goes, hey, they did it, can we do it?
Well, that would be an argument for them to present to council, but ultimately, again, any rezone has to go to the voters. So if that would be an argument they would present to council to try to persuade you, hey, listen, this guy did it, just north of us, why can't we do it, right? All right, so fine, then council can approve it, but then it still has to be approved by the voters.
You know how 50% of the land is going to be retained by the Bajorn family? Can they develop that into more houses or no?
If it's all zoned R1, then yes, it could be, so long as is R1. So whatever it's going to be zoned to, let's say, wherever the proposed rezone is, they can develop that property however they want according to those zoning
So he
specifications.
could potentially put another 30 houses up there to make sense.
If they can do it in accordance with the zoning regulations and approved by planning and zoning.
Yeah, and a subdivision approval.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, so there would be another.
Yeah. And I just want to speak to two things there, or Mr. Ziegler, sorry. So first, and someone in my family brought this up, and I appreciated it, but just us, you know, if we were to do this, doesn't necessarily mean that other developments aren't feasible to do 1 acre, 2 acre, 3 acre. We see developments going in with larger lots than this development would have larger lots than the minimum, right? So that was one thing. The second thing is, we wouldn't necessarily retain the rest of the property. We're kind of exploring some options of possibly donating it to the parks, possibly extending the back lots so that multiple people have slightly bigger lots in the back, or retaining it. You know, if my folks are planning on staying in this neighborhood, so if they stayed in the neighborhood, they could tack it onto theirs. I'll say, just to put that at ease, it's not feasible to do anything on the other portion of this land. Geographically, it's just not, it's not feasible financially.
Any other questions or
So
comments?
Matt, so how does the voting work? If we vote yes, it's allow them to rezone. If we vote no, it's to not rezone.
Correct.
Okay.
And so if you vote yes, then at the next meeting, we'll put forth legislation to submit it to the voters. If you vote no, then the issue dies today.
So even if we were to say yes, it could be voted down by the community.
Correct.
And that's 55% of the electorate, according to the previous election cycle.
I believe
So
that
that's a
is
pretty high
correct.
voting, correct?
I believe that is correct. I'm trying to pull up the charter right now.
Is that all of Kirtland, or is that just Ward 1 that would have to vote on
All of Kirtland,
because it affects the entire city?
all of Kirtland. And it is 55% of those voting. It's 55% of those voting in that current election. So if it's, you know, if you have 100 people that vote on this issue, you need to get 55 or more to vote in the affirmative.
I guess the other question is, that I have is, if you get midway, you know, like you say, you're extending this down 306, substantial cost. What if you get midway through this and it gets too much for you, so to speak, and you sell this project off to somebody? Now, all of a sudden, this 80-foot frontage or 85-foot frontage you're talking about, theoretically, if another builder was to come in there, they could go to the 60-foot minimums, correct? Because it has been now zoned for R1, and possibly squeeze 38 houses instead of 31.
Yeah, so I'll just say that this is the city's process for this. And one thing to alleviate that concern is that we've presented our plan. That may not be what happens if this got approved and if the public voted yes. That may not be what happens, still based on the subdivision approval process. So all that said, I would just put that back on the council and the zoning commission to say that it's really in their hands to say this was the plan that we approved. Someone coming in and wanting to do something way different isn't the plan that we approved.
Mr. Pashorn, I believe I asked, and Mr. Keening, I believe last meeting, I had made a comment about the frontage, and it was based off the minimum square footage, which was 12,600 square feet. So if it's narrower lots, they go deeper, and I'm sure they maximized the space to get that 31 sublots, right? Because otherwise the lots get longer, then you can't pull off what you need to do. So I just wanted to clarify that, if my understanding was correct.
Yeah,
So it is already planned for the minimum 12,600 square feet, but you felt that the 85-foot frontage gave enough space with the 5-foot side yards
Yep.
for the neighborhood.
Yep.
Thank you, ma'am. Any other questions for Mr. Pashorn? Mr. Lallo, I believe we have the process of a vote then?
So you can close the hearing itself, okay? And then at that point, you would entertain, there would be a motion to vote, and it's always in the affirmative. So you would, there would be a motion to approve of the application for zoning map amendment. And then there would be a second, and then there would be a discussion and a vote.
Mr. Lalo, I know we closed public comments at the last meeting, but there's a lot of residents that I see that weren't at the last meeting. So can we open those back up, or is it null and void? We had the opportunity at the last one, and
I mean, keeping with proper, let's say, Robert's rules, that public portion is closed. But as the chair of the council, I mean,
Plus, it was viewable online. Just because you weren't here.
okay. Well, I'm just curious if anybody else wanted to or needed to speak, if we should open it back up to the public, but,
I don't.
I think,
Okay.
I think
All
he's
right.
correct. We got a lot of emails pertaining to anybody who may not have been in.
okay.
Okay, so I guess we motion,
so entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
So
Second.
moved. And second.
That was Mr. Schultz and Ms. Simons. Okay, and then on
Any
to,
discussion on the
any
closure?
discussions on,
All right, that could be, doesn't need to be a roll call vote. It could just be all in favor?
all in favor?
Closing the-
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye.
Aye.
Close it? Yes?
Aye, to close it?
Yeah, all right, so the public hearing's closed. Now, I know. So now there's a, you'll entertain a motion to approve the application for zoning map amendment at 9501 Chillicothe Road.
Yeah, motion to approve.
And, hold on, because there was a recommendation, in accordance with the recommendation from the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll say so moved.
Does anyone have
Not repeat.
So moved.
No,
a second?
was there a second?
Second.
Who had the,
Mr. Schultz?
Schultz, okay. Mr. Festermaker, okay.
All right, so now at this point, you can still discuss that motion, or you can call for a vote.
Any discussion on that motion?
All right, now we'll ask for a roll. Yes.
Ms. Rowley?
Just-
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pashorn. I really believe you're a very honest person, and I believe you want the best for the community here. Thought a lot about this in terms of the economic impact that could occur at the city. You know, many years ago, the plan was to bring sewers in to help develop the downtown area. You know, it's somewhat starting to take off, so I can see the want to continue that and the funds necessary to extend those sewers 1,500 feet out of your own pocket. We've got many emails speaking of the concerns that have been discussed today. The council and Mayor Potter started an economic development committee of council. We have an economic development manager. You know, the goal is to develop responsible, have responsible development in the city of Kirtland. You know, I just spent a couple minutes thinking about what I would envision that subdivision being at 30 houses. You know, I would assume that those lots would probably be maybe $100,000 each. So all in $300,000, $400,000 homes that would generate perhaps, just off of my calculations, maybe $23,000 in property tax that the city would receive. Obviously, the tax bill would be more than that. Those 30 homes, I'm assuming those folks would have a household income of maybe $150,000. That would generate possibly $12,000 in income if they lived in the city and worked outside the city. Perhaps $140,000 of new money would come to the schools. I think you're connecting the community. I know I made a comment last time, if that would be something you would envision, would be to, when you did that sewer line, also come back and put in a sidewalk to help connect that subdivision to the city, so it's more of a walkable community. Just prior to this hearing, we met at 6 o'clock to talk about a road plan and road funding, right? And the necessary tax increases that would be needed to fund about a $27.2 million plan going all the way out to 2033. So we looked at, last year, just 8 months ago, it was looked at developing this property into townhouses and apartments and mixed-use retail. So I appreciate you coming out here. It's pretty exciting. Your dad has a dream, but the bogey in Kirtland is a 55% vote. You have your, hopefully you have your homework cut out for you. It's a hard threshold. I don't know why it was put at that. If Mr. Lallo can speak to other communities, I don't know, but I wish you luck. So thank you for sharing your father's dream with us. Thank you.
There being no other comments?
Any other discussion? I had one, Doug, Mr. Courtney. This area isn't considered historic Old Town Kirtland, correct?
I don't know. I don't believe so.
No, that ends at Russellhurst.
That's right, okay. Thank you.
So, and I think just quickly, I think for everybody here tonight, again, this is kind of the, to me, following this process has been very, not only interesting, but I've been proud of the way the residents have handled the correspondence. I've been proud of the way council has listened. The zoning board before that, Mr. Pazorn, obviously, and family, bringing this concept to the city. To your point, Mr. Smolik, Historic Town Center, to me, this is a fundamental question of expanding that Historic Town Center district or not. I know it's not exactly, that's not what the change is, but that's what the change ultimately is. So as you're, and I the other thing I would say is, I'm proud to say that I haven't tried to influence or, reach out to any council people and really say which way I hope anyone votes, because this is part of this process, I think, that is incumbent on this council, how this thing was laid out. So appreciative of you guys all really doing your homework here. But what I'm going to say is I think at the end of the day, it's just a fundamental question. If you want to extend that Historic Town Center zoning that was put in place in 2010. So, really from my perspective, that's what you're looking at in terms of a fundamental question.
I just want to say just one small thing. Andrew, I'm sorry. So we are here representing the people of our community. So, they obviously they showed up 2 weeks ago, and they've showed up here today. And in the past couple of weeks, we've received a lot of communication via text, emails, whatever, with their thoughts, their concerns, whatever. So I believe what we need to do is represent what they want and not necessarily what we want. And just so you're clear that, we're here for them. So we have to represent them the way they want us to represent them. And I appreciate everything that you've done, but I just need to make that clear that it's not, Sue Grazia voting what Sue Grazia wants, but what, people have expressed to me what they want.
Any other? Ms. Rowley? Lieber?
Ms. Simons?
No.
Mr. Ziegler?
No.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
No.
Ms. Grazia?
No.
Mr. Hamer?
No.
Mr. Schulz?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
No.
Am I allowed to?
So, Mr. Pajorn, obviously it didn't pass. So what you can always do is as Mr. Scholes just mentioned, you can take this back to the drawing board. You can reconsider kind of what you may want to do next. But the zoning at this point remains what it was set at previously. Okay. But if you do have questions, I would suggest you reach out to maybe city administration and other officials to consider other options or plans going forward. Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you guys. No, hey, that's why the process is as it is. Thank you all for your time.
I do want to thank you for your efforts. I do.
Absolutely. And I would be encouraged to see something that falls within the regulations for that area. I know it's less than, and it may not make financial sense and all of that, but if it does in some way, like I'm not opposed to the development. I just think that the precedent that it sets is not what we need. But I thank you and your family for being willing to kind of throw your hat in the ring and give it a shot and try and help us bring Kirtland forward. So thank you for all you did.
Thank you so much, sir. So, Mr. Lallo, that kind of closes that out. Go on to,
Correct. Now we begin the regular meeting.
okay. And, okay. Okay, we're on to the reading and the approval of the minutes of the April 15th, 2024 Finance Committee meeting. Looking for a motion and a second?
Second.
Motion to adopt.
First.
Yeah, there you go. We'll reverse order.
Sorry. I was cleaning my glasses. I just.
Mr. Bestermaker, Ms. Gracia for the, thank you. Any discussion, any changes on that? Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes. To the minutes of the April 15, 2024 work session. Looking for a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion, changes to that? Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes. Yeah, to the minutes of the April 15, 2024 council meeting. Looking for a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Simons? Second?
You already said it.
Okay, thank you.
She wasn't cleaning her glasses. So
Okay.
she was on the ball.
Any discussion, changes? Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler?
Yes.
Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes. Okay, on to department reports. Chief Hutton.
Thank you, Mr. Smolik. First, I'd just like to thank Mayor Potter and council for your consideration with the lease purchase of the fire engine. We'll try to have something for you next meeting. I'll work with Lewis on that. Our monthly report was sent out. I'm sure a lot of the residents here hear a lot of sirens lately. Fire department has been very, very busy. Our call volume as far as EMS transports is up 20% over this time a year ago. The EMS ATV is ordered. I want to thank Kirtland Kiwanis and the Kirtland Firefighters Association. They donated to the purchase of that. 20,000 of the 35,000 was donations. We should have that in July, so it'll be our new EMS ATV. Want to thank Captain Tony Catania. He was heading up the project as far as rehabbing Station 2. You know, Station 2, we tried to do a lot of work there. We were only able to do more of cosmetic. Captain Catania did some designs. We were able to build separate dorms in the dorm without moving the footprint of the building. Redid the bathroom, looks a lot better at this point. Also like to thank all three shifts. They were Captain Catania's laborers. So we saved a lot of money doing it that way. And Mr. Fernaro and Panelise, one of the service department workers, helped us out with drywall finishing. So that was good too. Other than that, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Chief Hutton. Any question for the chief? Thanks, Chief. Chief McAllister.
Thank you, Council President Smolik. I'll be brief. Monthly reports went out on Friday. I believe everybody should have received those. I just wanted to give special thanks to Julia DeWolf. She has completed her first session of DARE over in the schools, and the program is very well accepted. We're excited to continue it next year. And then also, she coordinated the Prom Promise with a lot of other area police departments. We were able to get into schools and do some different games, prizes, and testing and everything with the students. The school really liked the program and wants us to do it again next year. So we're just excited about those relationships and being able to bring something of value to the schools. That'll conclude my report, but I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Chief McAllister. Any questions for the chief? Thank you.
Chief, how are we doing on 306 North? Are we still monitoring traffic going up there? I've seen some recent social posts about people still running up through there, and
Yeah, we're still monitoring traffic, doing regular details. I believe over the weekend we did make some stops there and did issue some citations for people still running it. The traffic, people actually going through that is substantially down. We're not catching nearly as many when we are sitting there. And I think the presence has been beneficial, but we'll continue that. We'll monitor it, and I'll get you some numbers so you can kind of see where we're trending.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you much, Chief. Mr. Fernaro.
Good evening, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank, as we always do, thank the team for a great job they're doing. I'd like to thank council and the mayor for the new chipper. I sent you a little video of it out there working. The crew really appreciates it. We had our litter cleanup a couple Saturdays ago. Thank you, Mr. Smolik, the mayor, Mr. Jackson's team, the Quantas, and a few other volunteers. We were able to clean up the roadside on 306. The blue tractor has made almost its first round. It started going out last week. It should be finished up with a whole round this week. The bridge is moving along. We have a progress meeting tomorrow. Me and Doug will be on. And that'll complete. Oh, I forward you my winter wrap up. Nobody got the joke that it may be over. I slid that one by you guys. I was hoping you caught that, Mr. Smolik, but you didn't.
I'm not a bright man.
It's also Northeast Ohio, so it may be over.
Thank you, Chief.
I don't know if this is a question or more of a concern. Can we work some weed killer into our budget for the upfront there? Kind of is an eyesore.
So the mayor's not a fan of fertilizer. I'll put him on the spot. We do a little bit of fertilizer down at the rec park, on the baseball fields and soccer field, but that's all we do.
Maybe
This, in 2 weeks, drive by, and you probably won't see any dandelions.
they'll cut it, but it'll come back. It's just, I mean, I'm telling you, look at it.
It looks awful,
It does.
unless you like dandelions.
Unless you like dandelions, I guess.
I heard they make a wonderful salad.
But it's short-lived, it really is.
Okay. I'll take a picture every couple weeks, but we'll see how. All right.
This is our biggest disagreement.
No.
Any other questions for Mr. Fernaro? Mr. Fernaro, actually, I see we've got the usual resolution authorizing participation in the ODOT road salt contract that comes up every year. What was our final usage on salt? I know you brought it up a couple meetings ago this year.
We were right under 2,600. We had 4,000 ordered this year.
Okay.
Our last order actually went in today for 1,000 tons.
Oh, okay.
And we took the 90% this year. We have 2,500 ordered for next year.
Gotcha. Thank you. And per the May snow, you've been doing this a long time between Mayfield, Chesterland. What's the latest snow you've ever seen her?
Mother's Day, and we actually had a plow.
Oh, really?
It wasn't just salt. We actually had a plow.
Nice.
Way to put that into the universe, Joe. Said way to put that into the universe.
I just wanted to make sure we jinxed everybody here. So, you know me, I've got that Farfan-Nugan kind of flavor going. So, any other questions for Mr. Fernaro? Mr. Courtney.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Plans for the 24 streets, we're progressing on those, still waiting on the final report on the pavement testing. I have a call out to the testing company to find out when we're going to get those. I didn't hear back today. Old Town is also progressing. I believe the contractor's on Fairview. We had a progress meeting on Thursday with the contractor and the county. Joe and I reviewed Strawberry Festival dates and the requirements and the parade route and what we expect to see on those streets for the festival dates so that everyone's safe for the parade. They said they will accommodate those requests. You guys touched on the 306 Bridge project. Joe mentioned we have a progress meeting tomorrow for that. Booth Road Bridge, still no updates from the county on that one. I will reach out to them and find out where that schedule is. And then the draft 10-year road plan was emailed out today to everybody that we discussed at the finance meeting. Once you have a chance to dig into that a little bit, if you have any questions whatsoever about it, contact me or Joe. We'll be happy to help you through it. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Courtney. Any questions for Doug? Mr. Fernaro.
Sorry, I need to step back in. So Friday, May 17th is the Public Works Open House. So please come out. Hot dogs, hamburgers. We'll have an inflatable for the kids. We usually do a truck rodeo and meet our staff. So May 17th.
Time?
Always outstanding food.
What time?
5 to 7:30-ish.
Thank you, Mr. Fernaro. And thank you, Mr. Courtney. Mr. Slapdicker.
Thank you, Council President. We're wrapping up our gap conversion, which is our conversion from cash basis and accounting to accrual basis with local government services through the Auditor of State's office. With that wrapping up, we took part in our entrance conference to start the audit for the 2023 fiscal year. I forwarded Council a press release from the OMAP program, which OMAP, again, is a credit enhancement program that we utilize for our debt issuance for our note. And within the press release, it states that this year's program saved an estimated $38,602.50 in interest costs. And the previous 8 deals saved the city an estimated $62,714.72 in interest expense. So that was all forwarded to you last week, I believe. And finally, we met with our BWC third-party administrator. This is for our citywide BWC program. So we will be in group rating again in 2025, which is the best program that we can be in to control our BWC premiums. With that, that's my report, and I'm available for any questions.
Mr. Slapnicker, as it relates to the BWC group rating, what is the discount on that?
It's all based on the EMR number, and I don't have that directly in front of me, but our EMR is pretty low comparatively to that 100% line.
Is there, just, you may not know these answers, but is there a threshold as it relates to number of claims or lost time claims that'll boot us from the group?
A lot of it is the reserves that the BWC tags to certain claims.
Yeah.
And our reserves are pretty good right now, which allows us to be under that. It's a 1.00 EMR.
Okay.
It's just the BWC language for how they rate people. So as long as you're under that one EMR number, you're typically in group rating, which we're significantly under that. So we are in group rating, which means we get our discounts up front versus being in a retro state, which they pull you together, they compare that pool to see all the claims, and you could either owe or get a refund from that pool. But we're not in retro, we're actually in group rating, which is a good thing.
Thank you.
Lawyer, you got any more questions, Mr. Lella?
Not as it relates to that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Slapnicker? On to Mr. Lella.
Thank you. I've got just 2 brief updates. One, we do have stemming from a criminal case in court. There's a citizen who filed an action in Common Pleas Court and the Court of Appeals as a result of it before the case is even resolved. So we're busy defending that as we speak. Nothing really new to report. It's just there's been a number of filings in there and just having to deal with it. Secondly, Chief McAllister and I were fortunate enough to sit through a seminar, I believe it was a week and a half ago, and it was truly informative as it relates to drug recognition experts in the police force. You have to be a DRE certified. You have to go down to the Ohio State Academy for 3 weeks and be trained and pass a number of tests. It's a very rigorous process, but essentially these officers are able to perform a battery of tests on subjects and conclude essentially what drugs they are or were on, or if they're having a medical emergency. And this comes into play with the prevalence of people consuming drugs before getting on the roads. So it was just a really enlightening process for us to sit through that. And I believe one of the officers, Kirtland officers, is actually going to be going down to attempt to get certified as DRE. And I think as of a couple years ago, there was only about 205 or 210 officers that are certified in the state. So it would be a huge asset for the city to have an officer that's actually DRE certified. So, but it was just an anecdotal comment, but with the prevalence of drugged driving on the roads and the passage of the state law for recreational marijuana, I think it was pretty eye-opening how these officers are able to really do these batteries of tests and make these conclusions. So it was cool.
Is they able to be called into court as experts then, obviously, for that type of
Yes.
thing? Okay.
Yeah, and that was part of the seminar, is how to properly qualify these officers as experts in drug recognition. They gave us some documents and data and potential, direct examination questions and things like that to help.
Take it with
talk to the witness.
as limited amount as there are, you said 200, are other cities borrowing these officers? Then
That's
obviously.
exactly right. They would call various DRE officers, and they would drive to that location. So if there's, God forbid, a fatal accident or something like that, they would.
Even if they were jailed, so to speak, the cell, the monitor on the jail cell to try to figure that out, also that type of thing.
These interviews actually take place in the police custody at the police station.
Oh, okay.
Is it, perhaps you can answer this, Ms. Olalo, is that training that's through a grant through the state of Ohio, or is that training that we would be out of pocket to provide?
If I'm not mistaken, the training is paid for by the state, but the city or the jurisdiction would need to pay for the officer's time at the training.
Oh, sorry. Anything else?
But no, other than that, that's about it.
Per the marijuana laws, haven't heard much about state, Senate representatives. Have they really ironed anything out on?
I've heard nothing new about it.
Okay. You think they'll get it done by the end of the year, or? Okay.
Probably not.
Thank you, Mr. Lallo. Oh, Ms. Sari? Senior and Recreation Center.
Good evening, Council. Just a quick word of thanks tonight. For those of you who don't know, the Service Department did put up the outdoor pickleball nets a few weeks ago. The day they put them up, we didn't do any kind of formal announcement, but within an hour, all 3 courts were taken with pickleball players. So thank you very much for putting them up. Obviously an unseasonably warm April, and they certainly are taking advantage of them. And for those who are going down to check out the new pickleball courts, please be aware there's no parking on that side near the pavilion. They're working hard on those outdoor restrooms. I was out of town for a week and barely recognized it when I came back, so they're definitely working hard. So thank you again to Mr. Fernar and the Service Department for doing such a great job with that. I'm open to any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Sari. Any questions for Ms. Sari? Much appreciated. Thank you. Mayor Potter.
Thank you, Council President Smolik. I'll try to be real quick because we had a rather lengthy meeting as it is tonight. But I do have to thank the volunteers. I know more than 30 of us came out on just last Saturday, cleaned up 10 homes of veterans and seniors. So we do that every spring and fall, and it was just another wonderful opportunity to get out there and help in the community. So thanks to all of those that showed up. Thanks to Joe and Mr. Finaro, Mr. Courtney, and all the council, Lewis, obviously, and everyone that participated in the 6 o'clock work session related to road financing, road fundings. Right before the meeting, before the 6 o'clock meeting, myself, Mr. Gibbs, Mr. Finaro, Lalo, Hamer, we had a Patrick Mahorsic in from the Lake County Port and Economic Development Authority, just in regard to some discussions we're having with Chagrin Valley gig, which Ohio gig. So just trying to get some clarification on a few things. So hopefully in the next month or two at the most, we'll have an update from Chagrin Valley gig as to when they think they'll be able to start, excuse me, running that fiber broadband throughout the internet, throughout the city. And then Eddie Ecker, we had talked about Eddie coming here for this meeting tonight. Knowing that this public hearing had been extended and we'd be here for a while, I asked him to come to the meeting in 2 weeks, so he will be here on the 20th. And to your, I think, Mr. Fenstermaker, you'd asked for a report ahead of time, so you'll see that prior to that meeting, so you have a chance to review that and ask some questions. And then, I made a mistake in my Chronicle monthly article. I said that the cleanup out here in front of City Hall for in preparation for Memorial Day, it's a volunteer effort. I think I said I know I said May 17th, but that's a Friday. It's actually May 18th, a Saturday. So a good friend of mine, Mike Sams, let me know that I made a big mistake there. Nothing else from me. I'm certainly open for questions.
Thank you, Mayor Potter. Any questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mayor. Okay, on to any standing committee reports. Did we have anything recently, or do we have anything planned? Do we need anything planned? Do we need another finance committee meeting before the next session?
We need a utility standing committee meeting? Commission meeting. We need a commission meeting.
Oh, utilities commission meeting.
Utility
Okay.
commissions meeting.
Which is going to be a new one for me. The first time, I should say, for this one. We need.
So, Mr. Smolik, I think the only thing we need is maybe a formal recommendation of his appointment, right? Mr. Smolik's appointment to that committee, I think, is another council person. You may have said already.
I believe we did put Mr. Hamer on it since he's head of the utilities committee anyhow.
I believe that's solely, I'm trying to pull up the ordinance.
Yeah, I don't think it goes to a vote. I think it's just him signifying what he'd prefer.
I believe I was voluntold as well.
That was done last meeting. Mr. Finaro said it was done last meeting. So
yeah, so one other council member selected by the president and approved by council.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Without knowing, did we have a prior vote on
I
that?
believe so.
Was that last council session, though?
We did. No, we did it last council, didn't we?
Was that last meeting? Okay. I can try to pull up the minutes real quick.
You can just. Well, while you're doing that, I think it is high time that we start to nail down a date. So I guess let's talk about what. So it's myself, yourself, Mr. Courtney, Mr. Finaro, Mr. Slapnicker, I believe.
We need to have, this is going to be discussion pertaining to the
rates,
rates.
related to the rates for the.
In session, we have certain packing plants. I'm actually on one of them, Rockwood, Ledgewood, Hickory Hill, Monterey. I'm forgetting one, Shenandoah, on Eagle.
Eagle, yeah.
Things that we actually pay we got sewers, but we pay a quarterly sewer rate. We're having some, obviously older equipment, we need to do a little rate increase, and it's just specific for the people who are affected in those areas that they pay, on that separately. Generally, we pay, what are we, $125 a quarter is what it's been for a while on. I think the last rate change was probably 15, 20 years ago. So this is what this committee meetings, commission is going to be pertaining to, these various packaging plants and the capital improvements that we need to do to them. And Mayor, you said that would be yourself, myself, Mr. Hamer, Mr. Courtney, Mr. Finaro, Lewis?
I believe is in Mr. Slapnicker.
Okay.
City Finance Director. So yeah, we basically have to set a date and time, and then notifications have to go out to all of the residents served by those 3 package plants.
Do we think this is a meeting that happens after council, or is it like a,
Yeah, we can do that after
or a
council.
Wednesday night,
Oh, I see what you're saying.
like residents? Like
I
make
would,
it
I
the
would
only
think, I would
thing?
think a weeknight versus a weekend.
Weekend or week.
You're never, we'll never, you know what I mean? You'll never be able to hit everybody's schedule, so.
Obviously make it most convenient for the residents to be able to get into. And the letter that goes out to them, it's, that there's a meeting pertaining that's going to be specific to rate change, correct? Is that what's in the
Right,
letter also?
it'll reference that, right? So, do you want to shoot for the first meeting in June or the second meeting in June?
Mr. Hammer, what works?
Okay, so Mr. Fensterman, or Mr. Slapnicker won't be here for the first meeting in June. So, yes,
The Public Utilities Commission, you said had to have a vote. There was one council member, council president, and one council member voted by council, right?
So
That is not,
Do we need to do that again just to make
it
sure?
it is not in the minutes. That is correct. I was just checking to see if it was in the meeting before. Okay. Like not the April 15th, but the first one in April. But yeah, so what happens is the council president has to appoint somebody and council has to approve of it. So if you want, we could,
Do it right now, okay. I'd
Yeah.
like to appoint Councilman Hamer for the
Public Utilities Committee?
Public Utilities Commission, correct? Commission, correct. Any questions?
Ask for a vote?
All in favor? Or do we need to
Roll call.
roll call?
Am I allowed
Ms.
to
Raleigh?
vote? Am I allowed to vote for myself?
Absolutely. You are.
We're not.
or not.
He's going to vote against himself, I know it. Ms. Raleigh?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler? Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes, that was very reluctant, yes, Mr. Hamer. Okay, so that sets that up. Now, date-wise, Lou,
yeah, we can get that worked out afterward. Send out an
Louis,
email.
what works
You don't want us to go back and forth and look at our calendars for another 10 minutes? Good point, Mr. Ziegler. We will get it nailed down and send an email out.
you just want to do this, send out an email online? Yeah, so we're not negotiating it right now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so that's, brings us up to, any other standing committee meetings? You, just, for the utilities, correct? Finance meeting?
Well, I think we should, and I also, Chief Hutton talked about this fire truck tonight. Is that something we need to do tonight, or do we have to have another meeting?
You're going to present it to us next meeting, correct?
But I think we'll have the legislation to move forward with it, and as far as I'm concerned, right, Mr. Slapnicker? So maybe just a 6:30 work session,
6th.
or fine, and call it whatever you want, I guess.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. On to correspondence, which, please notify me, there's a few correspondence here. Was this Denise, was this 24PZ-1? And
PZ-2, right?
the PZ-1 and 2? Or just -2?
One was the prior Mr. Pajorn's case.
Yeah, okay. I had two listed here and I couldn't pull it up online, so a little,
So, yeah, I believe Planning and Zoning Commission's Resolution 24PZ2 was the recommendation to approve a number of ordinance changes as it relates to the zoning code. It doesn't rezone properties, it just cleans up the code sections. So that's all it does.
did everybody get that one with the red line? So we can do a vote on that?
So that would, it's got to be set for a public hearing.
Okay.
So what we'll do is we'll have it on the next agenda, and then we'll have the legislation on the next agenda, and it'll be set for a public hearing, likely for the second reading.
That works with me, Matt. Thank you. Third.
Yeah. Oh, the second reading, the day of the second reading will likely be the day of the public hearing on the zoning, the proposed zoning change, or zoning ordinance. right?
Yeah, I think I just,
Yeah, first read will be May 20th.
I had it buried in
It'll
there.
be June 3rd, and we'll ask that it be set for a public hearing on June 3rd. Right?
I did just find that should I read out the first paragraph on that at all? Do I need to read that up for this?
No, we're just
We're just doing the
acknowledging
next one,
receipt
okay.
of the correspondence.
Okay, very good. On to public comments on matters not on the agenda. So we open up to the public, whoever would like to come up, talk on the mic. Do you have any questions or comments? If you guys were here for the other thing, you don't have to sit through this, you're allowed to go.
It's a nice evening.
You're
We wouldn't be here if we didn't have to.
I mean, I know it's not my good looks that everybody's sticking around for, so. No public comments at this time? Okay, on to old business. This time we have no old business. New business. We open it up right now, public comments on agenda items of new business. Anybody who doesn't know, there's always an agenda on the corner by Miss Raleigh there if you want to pick up and see what's on for the business for the day. No public comments on that. Okay, we're on to resolution number 24-R-33. Resolution authorizing participation in the ODOT salt contracts awarded in 2024 and declaring an emergency. Mr. Fernaro, we needed okay, we needed to waive the, any discussion actually on it first? Gonna need a motion to waive the 3 readings.
Motion, waive the 3 readings.
Thank you. Any discussion? Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler? Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Abstain.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes. And Mr. Schultz abstains because he works for ODOT, so. Okay, now we're looking for a motion to declare an emergency and adopt. Thank you, Eric.
Second.
Mr. Fenstermaker with a second. Any discussion? Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler? Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Abstain.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes. Okay, on to resolution number 24-R-34, a resolution accepting the bid of Watts Excavating for its work on the Pheasant Lane Culvert Replacement Project and declaring an emergency. Did we,
If we can, please, this has been a long process. We had to get pre-funded through the county. So
Okay.
this quote they've been holding since.
if you guys just want to, for the public, I know this has been discussed and approved. This project's,
The crossover pipes in Silver Fox on Quill and,
with the cost, what was this one, 13,000?
one was 31, I believe.
31, okay, there's
One
two,
was
there's
30,
another cost in
And
the
the
other
other
one.
one was 37.
Okay,
Rough numbers, don't.
gotcha. Thank you, Mr. Fernaro. Any discussions or questions on that? Looking for a motion to waive the 3 readings?
So moved.
Second.
I'll give it to Ms. Grazia.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Any discussion?
Are you keeping score? Are you keeping score?
Yeah.
Is there a prize?
End of the year you do.
You get a cookie.
They add up. Any discussion?
Cookie.
Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler? Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes. Okay, now looking for a motion to declare an emergency and adopt?
So moved.
Second.
There you go. Thank you. Any discussion? Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler? Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes. Thank you. To resolution number 24-R-35, a resolution accepting the bid of Watts Excavating for its work on the Quail Circle Culvert Replacement Project and declaring an emergency. Looking for a motion to waive the
Motion to
3
waive the
readings?
3 readings.
Thank you.
Second.
Give it to Mr. Ziegler. He was first. Any discussion on this? Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons?
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler? Mr. Fenstermaker?
Yes.
Ms. Grazia?
Yes.
Mr. Hamer?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Yes.
Mr. Smolik?
Yes. Looking for a motion to declare an emergency and adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Ms. Rowley?
Ms. Simons,
Yes.
Mr. Ziegler, Mr. Fenstermaker,
Yes.
Ms. Grazia,
Yes.
Mr. Hamer,
Yes.
Mr. Schulz,
Yes.
Mr. Smolik,
Yes. Okay, on to council comments. Any council comments at this point?
I'd like to thank all of the residents that called, emailed, text message, asked for to set up a time for a phone call to have an opinion about the project that we talked about tonight. I think it's really important to actually get feedback from the citizens, and sometimes we don't get that, and it's much easier to represent the people when we actually hear from them. So I appreciate everybody that took the time to do that.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Can I second that?
Sure. Go ahead, second.
You're trying to up your count.
I'll third it. Any other council comments at this point? Any continuing concerns? The audience, any continuing concerns? Okay, motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Fenster?